But I also wanted to talk about, because PoE 2 had a lot of announcements attached to it, I wanted to type up a few things and that we could talk about in a new video. Okay. So what kind of sparked this video was this comment right here. Maybe I can just zoom it in a little bit. Let's try. Okay. I'll have to remember to minimize that. So I had put out a video sort of right as this the release of season 1 had come out, just talking about me switching from pulverized druid over to a nature's fury build. I saw that there was some buffs done to druid, and I was trying to find a unique way to build a nature's fury druid. Of course, I'm missing a lot of the uniques that are part of it, that are really essential to the build. But I found a build that kind of works with no uniques, that is good for a player that's, you know, not wanting to or not patient enough to just switch a build at that, like once they get the unique, like I was like. So this is why I wanted to make this video. I was like, I made this shred druid video, and I was like, you know what, you're right, you know, like some things are pretty tough about season 1, but I'm seeing a lot of this sentiment about season 1 content in Diablo being turned south into a full-on like form of, I think the word thrown around a lot right now is tribalism, where it's just like, it's fun to hate on a game right now, so let's everybody just hate on this game together, and anybody who disagrees is some sort of shill for the game, and then everybody that is not or who is in agreement with us is also like, that validates my opinion. So this is what I'm talking about. After the season 1 release, the Diablo 4 was review bombed effectively, and right now it is sitting at a 1.8 on score. If you go through these comments, a lot of these comments are going to say a lot of the same thing, I'm sure, with season 1. And I am not saying, my intention is not to be like none of these opinions are valid. A lot of these opinions are probably valid and probably founded in truth. What I don't want to do is, I don't want to take a side with either. I don't want to take a side with the people who say the game is foundationally fine and there's no issues at all. I also don't want to take side with the group of people who think that, well, the game is flawed in this way, and so it can never recover. Worst game devs ever. That's the issue I'm taking with this video to begin. And so I was like, well, let me give a perspective that maybe isn't heard of and isn't being told in the YouTube comments, in the Twitter videos, in all this stuff, because if I'm getting comments on my videos, then we know it's truly systemic, because I really don't get a ton of views. I don't get a ton of stuff. I've gotten a lot of positive traction on my YouTube page because of this. I've gotten, like, I broke 100 subscribers with videos in this. I've gotten thousands of views on some of mine, my stuff, my videos, my shorts. So I'm not saying that I haven't gotten something positive from this, but I don't want it to also give off the impression that because I've gotten some positive traction, that I'm not going to criticize the game. There are flaws and there are issues with season 1, and I'm trying to, like, my best to focus on the things that I've experienced personally and have had issues with versus saying the things that I haven't experienced personally in the game, so it's not a problem, right? I haven't played every class, and I've maybe made 1, maybe 2 classes in the game so far, so there's not a whole lot that I haven't experienced, like, say, level 100 content. I understand that I played a game casually. I've had end game characters. I have played world tier 4 on my level 70 character, and I'm playing right now in seasonal contents with my level 50 character. So this is all something I want to put in that context. So the first thing I wanted to talk about, so I wrote some notes down here that I want to write down as I'm kind of going through this. So the first concept I wanted to talk about is the time wasted. This is not big enough concept. Let me make this much bigger. This is the time wasted concept. A lot of people have been asking me in my Discord page, have been asking me in like basically like anywhere that I have social media, they've been asking me, should I get Diablo 4? Should I play Diablo 4? And my answer is a bit complicated. Like usually when someone asks me, someone asks me about this, I'll be like, give me a minute. Like, give me a minute to explain to you what I mean. And so what I'll tell them is there's a lot that you'll get out of Diablo within just the campaign. I truly believe that the campaign is well built. It is very fun to play. I enjoyed playing it. And then when that last leg of it, where I was kind of trying to burn through it and get to Lilith and get to the end, I didn't feel overwhelmed with what was being asked of me. I was able to get to that point and enjoy it. And so I don't want anybody who's wanting to play to be dissuaded. I truly believe that if you're going to considerably take your playtime as maybe investment, as much money you pay into the game is how much you get out. Like you buy a $60 price tag, probably $70 price tag nowadays for a game, you probably want to get your money's worth out of it. I truly believe in the hours that you play the campaign, and probably to the extent that you probably enjoy side quests and nightmare dungeons and whispers, I would say you could at least easily get I would say, let's see how much time I put into, I would say about much time as I put into like Dark Souls 2, which is a game that is highly controversial. I put in like 60 hours into that game. I can considerably say I get 60 hours out of Diablo 4. So where does this time wasted concept come from? I think it comes from a position of players who have gone into season 1 and they feel like the time that they spent doing their regular character, it's not enjoyable. That one, they have to start all over again, or two, they feel like the amount that they've invested is not being rewarded properly. Those are in understandable concepts, but I'm going to focus on the second part, which is you're not being rewarded properly for the time invested that you've spent. This is mainly focusing on the idea of renown. Renown is this concept that basically you do side quests, you do things, it earns you bonus XP, it earns you extra Paragon points, it earns you skill tree points. These are very important to the game altogether. By moving on into season 1, some of this stuff carries over, but a lot of it doesn't. My personal experiences, I didn't touch side quests. I didn't want to do side quests. I started doing side quests as a part of season 1, but that doesn't mean that all of a sudden now I enjoy side quests because this is my first time doing them. I'm sure if season 2 comes along and I have to do side quests again, I would dislike it. My personal opinion of it was that if I have to do side quests again, I am honestly going to not do them if it means they're not changed. If side quests were changed, if they were adapted to make sense in the new DLC, even in small ways, I wouldn't mind it. If the side quests were added to it to add extra stuff to it, I wouldn't mind it, but they truly didn't change anything about it. So this is what I felt when I joined into the season 1 side quest content. I felt like it was all outdated, and I felt like it didn't make sense because I had already beaten Lilith. I understand bosses come back and characters come back in Diablo, but I had quests that were just like, oh, we have to stop Lilith, and I'm like, you couldn't change like a line of text for this, or you could have just like done something different to where it makes sense in this patch. At least it didn't make sense. So the time wasted concept, I totally understand that people feel like the time that they've invested isn't being rewarded properly because you're having to redo a lot of the things you previously had already done. My personal stance on it is that this is something that is very fixable, in the sense that this can easily be fixed within the patch of season 1. Will it be 100%? I do not know. But right now, time wasted for me, I don't feel like it's the idea that, well, you have to redo these things. The game is irredeemable. Nothing I do matters. I do 100% believe that sometimes with a live service game, there are highs and lows, and this may be a low point. And I don't want to tell people to put 100% of their faith in Activision Blizzard to do the right thing, because if you do, you're going to get burned like Overwatch. You're going to get burned like a game. And I don't want people to be disappointed. But what I do want people to understand is that changes like this aren't going to happen 100% just by quitting the game. I feel like 100% of the time, people feel like, oh, in mass, if we all just review bomb it, that's the way to do it. I disagree entirely. I think that the way to do this is not necessarily just, play the game still like you normally would, but people need to be active in the spaces so they can talk about these things properly while still understanding that the game is ever evolving and moving on. So what I mean is, if you have an opinion, if you have a thought about these things, you need to be just as active in your silence as you are in your disgruntled behavior about the game. A lot of people going overboard with, these devs are terrible people, and personally attacking them, and to the point to where they want everyone to join them in on their pain. I understand a lot of people feel like they've spent time in this game. I personally feel like the time I've spent in this game has been enjoyable up until this point. But that being said, I understand, and I have had some problems with season 1 as well. I haven't enjoyed Helltides. I haven't really enjoyed the side quest aspect. And I haven't really enjoyed a lot of my things that I had previously didn't carry over like I thought they were. And the amount of things as well that have felt super weak about my character have been instituted in the changes with season 1. But what am I going to do about it? I'm going to find a way for it to work, and then I'm going to voice my opinion about why these other things don't work or the issues with it. Like, for example, there's a few classes out there who can make the comment that vulnerable damage feels necessary, but there's not enough ways for me to make vulnerability happen or to contribute enough vulnerability damage when it happens. That is a totally valid opinion, and I think that should be put forward. But what we shouldn't be doing is going, I just hate this, get rid of it. Have constructive criticism that's going to effectively change the game in a positive way, but have solutions as well at the time so you can provide that to the game. And your thought and opinions may be, well, this is the devs who should do this. It's not my job to do this. I understand that you may not want to, but if you're out there and you're just actively trashing the game without anything not necessarily anything positive, but anything constructive to say, you're just screaming into an echo chamber to do nothing. So what's the worst you're gonna do? Nothing. What does constructive criticism apply? Something that people can work with. So that the time wasted concept was the first thing that I was like, I think people need to understand a little bit better. Let me write down the second one, because, all right. The second one I want to put down is the Path of Exile versus Diablo. PoE versus Diablo 4. This is something that's coming up, especially with the idea that Path of Exile is probably one of the closest thing you could compare one-to-one to Diablo 4 in a number of ways. A lot of times people will bring in Diablo 3 as well, because there was things in Diablo 3 that are coming up in Diablo 4, or that aren't in Diablo 4, or things that didn't work in Diablo 3 that also don't work in Diablo 4. Like they didn't improve over that transition. And I want people to understand that a lot of those one-to-one concepts, personally, I think that whilst similar, I think that it's not entirely unfair to make those comparisons, but I think that putting those concepts into this game is probably not the most constructive idea to helping like Diablo's issues right now. And what I mean by that is that PoE and Diablo are very similar. I think have different end goals and are reaching out to different crowds of people in the ARPG genre. I think that right now ARPGs are getting a lot of love and attention, and that's fantastic to a genre that maybe didn't get a lot of love and attention. But I think that the PoE as an ARPG is very niche still, whereas Diablo 4 is appealing to a much wider fan base than PoE is. I understand that people who played Diablo 3 and Diablo 4 may bridge and also play PoE. And with PoE switching, PoE 2 switching into two separate games, PoE 1 and PoE 2, versus just transitioning over to PoE 2, there's going to be even further of a niche of a crowd within the ARPG genre. I do not think that it is I keep on saying like, I do not think it is a good idea to simply judge Diablo based off of its predecessors as well as what PoE has. And the concept I want to compare it to is the idea of musicians and artists. So a lot of artists, as they've made more albums and more music over time, they have changed these concepts of the music, or maybe how their music is, because their music then was popular then, and it's not necessarily going to be popular now. My favorite example is Linkin Park with Meteora. People didn't like the transition from Meteora to Minutes to Midnight. They did not like it. They disliked their music. But we got some of the best tracks from Linkin Park from that. What I've Done, Given Up, I'm forgetting my favorite, one of my favorite tracks from it, but Bleed It Out. So a Shadow of the Day, really great tracks from that, but a complete diversion from what they've previously done in the past. I want to put that same concept to Diablo, in that they are changing a lot of those concepts. And so saying that this game that's come out previously, it's going to work now 1-to-1 in this game, even if it's the exact same concept, I do not think that it works exactly like you're saying. I understand that you can apply it in a sense, but it's not going to work 100% of the way. Now, do I have 100% experience with PoE? I played PoE a little bit, but I don't have enough experience with PoE to be like, oh yeah, this concept exactly, yeah, this is just like it, or no, this concept is nothing like it. I don't know why people are making this comparison, but I can say that there's a lot of stuff that I enjoyed about Diablo 3 that I'm glad aren't in Diablo 4, because it worked back then. But do I want to see that concept again exactly 1-to-1? No, I got my fill of it. I'm good. So I think that you can use those things foundationally or conceptually, but not in a sense that you can apply it 1-to-1 as, oh yes, it makes sense and will make sense in a new game. Next point. So here's the next thing, and this is why I brought up the comments of the YouTube comment. Validation and echo chambers. Right now, I am seeing it everywhere. Metacritic, my own YouTube comments, which is rare, that people are straight up mob mentality trying to get people who enjoy the game to not enjoy the game. I think that this has no roots as being foundationally sound or factual or helpful to anybody, especially to the people that you're trying to convert to not enjoy this game if they do enjoy this game. I'm going to play this game despite the flaws, and if I'm not enjoying the game, I will stop playing the game. If there is a concept that I find unenjoyable, I will start to unenjoy the game until I don't play it. So what I think is not constructive to anybody is, one, to review bomb Metacritic, or two, to go into other creators' chats and tell them that they shouldn't be playing the game because of this. I think that right now there are a lot of people going around who either, one, want people to validate their choice of quitting Diablo 4, or two, will only listen or adhere.
I want scotch.
If I want scotch. So we'll only listen or adhere to the people who are agreeing of their opinions, and they want people to validate those thoughts. So I think that in that concept, you invite no room for criticism, and also you only invite room for opinions as well, opinions and thoughts that are not going to improve the game as a whole. by going into a lot of these creators like rooms and going like, okay, we're gonna make this, we're gonna make sure that this person knows that we dislike this game and you should too. You're not, yeah, if anything, you're creating division between the people who don't enjoy the game and the people who do. And the concept or the idea that I'll compare this to is World of Warcraft in its current state. World of Warcraft in its current state, you can say it doesn't happen, but it's happened to me before in social media. I'll see World of Warcraft will post a cosmetic that cost $5, $10, $20, $60, whatever it is, and people will be in support of it 100%. Be like, yes, I'm willing to pay $60 for a cosmetic in a game that I'm already paying money, but I justify it because I get a free battle pet or I get a free month's time of game time. So it's like I'm only spending $20 versus whatever I'm spending. I think that concept's completely wrong, but people are convinced so hardly of this that it's a good thing for them, that if you tell that person like, no, this is not good for the game, this is bad for the game, you're going to create divisions between you and that person even further, instead of bridging that gap. Be like instead of just saying something like, hey, you know, like, do your favorite transmogs come from this place? Like, do you think that transmogs should be earned? Do you prefer transmogs that should be earned in game versus just paid for? Like, why do you think they do something like this in a game that you're already paying money for? Instead of bringing questions to the conversation and asking people's opinions, people are just blanket hating on each other and creating division within the crowd. And the issue with that, in the end all be all, because it is because if you're a player who's quit the game, but you truly want the game to improve, you're not allowing those people who are still playing the game, one, to people who are sponsored and working with Diablo as partners directly, two, and three, sowing division between developers as well, because they can blanket say, well, we can't talk to these people, they're unreasonable. The less reasonable you are, the less the devs are going to be willing to communicate, talk with, adjust, make changes. So this whole validation concept and echo chamber concept is completely not worth your time and is an absolute waste for everybody involved. And then the last thing I want to say, actually, I think I just said those 3 points, but the last thing I want to say about this whole thing with Diablo 4 is my personal thoughts on playing the game. Should you play the game now? I think it is difficult to play with a brand new season 1 with everyone playing season 1. Not a lot of people are playing non-seasonal characters. But if you're brand new to Diablo 4 and you're asking, whether you're asking me in Discord, Twitter, YouTube, whether or not you should play this game, I think personally that you should play and enjoy the campaign. I think you will get your money's worth out of that. The CEO of Bungie said they love the bad press because it makes more people curious about the game. I have ideas about Bungie, like in the whole Destiny thing, especially a lot of the paid concepts that they included with Destiny, because I think now the companies of Halo, I believe, and Blizzard are closely connected now, at least in maybe staff or concepts. But I personally think if you're brand new to the game, I think that you will get your money's worth out of playing a brand new character and enjoying the campaign. I think the side quests aren't bad as far as playing them once, and I think you could play the whole game as much as you would play a box game, a AAA game, and get enough hours out of it. However, as a live service game, I think you have to proceed with caution. Are you going to play a class that you enjoy? Are you going to play something that you like? I don't know. I can't say for you. But what I can say that I think you'll get enough time out of the game to where it's still worthwhile to play it. The campaign is really strong. I think a lot of the concepts are good. I think that the game is probably really, really fun up until about at least level 70, at least. And that I easily put in enough hours to be worth it. Is it fun to play up to 100 and to beat Uber Lilith? You're probably going to see a lot more of those issues in the game when that comes along. But I personally have come across, I played two characters, one main and one seasonal character, and I still feel like I can get something out of the game that's enjoyable for me to play the game still. Are there issues? Yes. But am I personally, I want to seek out those issues and find ways that I can possibly fix those issues, not necessarily for the game itself, but so I can put it out there as a way to be like, this is a positive direction that the game could go. Will the devs listen? I don't know. It's a matter of, can we put those concepts out there? Are there things like leaving dungeon and teleporting out of dungeon, taking a 5-second cast versus a 3-second cast? Universally not a good idea. Yeah, I understand that. But my personal opinion is these three things, your time wasted, these comparisons, as well as these validation and echo chambers are not constructive to the argument, but are simply byproducts of people wanting to make as much impact and moaning and groaning out of their experience to affect other people, but it's not affecting the devs in the way that you think it is. Yes, if no one was to play Diablo 4, they would probably make some changes, right? But because you're going to have people who are going to enjoy the game probably no matter what happens in the game, what you're doing is you're simply removing yourself from the conversation, which is your right, but it's not going to make the game better in the long run if that is your true want or desire. So that's my personal opinion of it. I hope that makes sense. I hope I'm not dividing anybody in any sort of way to make them feel like their choice was being attacked. I want people to feel like they can enjoy the game as they please. But personally, I think that a lot of people are making it to be bigger than something that it is. And I think that a lot of games go through issues, but don't compare a game that is actively live serviced within its first few months of being released and to say blanketly, this is terrible. They have no excuse. I think that it's important to give some understanding and to be constructive about it. Diablo is good. 4 is good. It's just weird right now. There's a lot of things that are weird. There's a 10 out of 10 presentation. You're hired. You're hired. Yeah. So I wanted to throw that out there as like, just take the company CEO immediately. Bobby Kotick, watch out. Sad Dad's coming for you. Sad Dad's coming for you. All right, that was a long tangent. Okay.